Hi friends, and welcome back to finish up my mixed media Easter card series. So, my grandmother wanted 10 cards and this is the last card. If you saw my last video, you know we were doing inksmooshed backgrounds, and one of them is the background panel for this card as well. But instead of crazy birds, we're using Gummiapan stamps, like this Crokus flower and a few chickens later on. I haven't had time to mount these stamps, so I'm using double-sided tape to be able to pick it up with the door. I stamped this Crokus in Versafine Onyx Black Ink, and then I cover my image with Wow's clear superfine embossing powder and heat set until melted and shiny. And I stamp the flower again and do the same procedure with the superfine embossing powder because we are watercoloring and I want those raised edges to help me. It's time to stamp the chickens and the rooster, and it's kind of a cuteness overload, but I stamp them in Versafine Onyx Black Ink and heat emboss them with Wow's clear superfine embossing powder and melt it all with my heat tool. Now, let's watercolor these flowers with Distress Oxide Inks, and I use Twisted Citron and Rustic Wildernes for the leaves. I want a light spring feeling, and I also want these flowers to match with my inksmooshed backgrounds, and I tie them together by using Twisted Citron and Wilted Violet that we used on the backgrounds earlier. When I color the flowers, I start with my darkest purple dusty Concord because I want the top of the petals to be the darkest and lighter at the base of the flowers. I blend out dusty Concord with Wilted Violet and shaded Lilac. When I color my chickens and rooster, I use Distress Oxide spray in squeezed lemonade and spray it on my glass mat. And to give them some shading, I use a water brush with Dylusions ink in pure sunshine. And later I bring in Tangerine Dreams for the rooster. I use pure sunshine for their feet and beaks as well as the shading, and I bring in Dylusions Tangerine Dream to color the red parts on the rooster and give him a darker shade. I drink my coffee. I love coffee, and then I bring in my anti-static powder bag because I plan to heat emboss and I need to get rid of any tackiness. Then I bring in a Hero Arts friendship text stamp and stamp my panel in Versafine Onyx Black Ink and cover it with Ranger's Black sparkeling embossing powder and melt it with my heat tool. This panel will be covered up by the inksmooshed panel and only the edges will show. I should have stamped only the edges, but I didn't. So now I need to stamp and heat emboss the edge to the right and at the bottom. I even stamp and heat emboss that little corner, and finally the whole panel has a black sparkling text. I use my archival black soot ink pad and go around the edges to tie the two panels together with black. It's now time to put this card together, and I glue the main panel onto the black panel with text, and I start gluing down the flowers and a twig of catkins. Then I do the same with my chickens and rooster. I glue them down and add a happy Easter sentiment in Swedish, Glad påsk. And now this final Easter card is finished. Thank you so much for watching and subscribing. Next up is a new art journal spread. But for now, have a happy Easter.